Hey everybody, Phil here. I'm going to do a change of pace. I normally like to break down ranges across multiple streets, but today we're just going to look at a couple of pre-flop pots involving Tom Dwan. Now, Tom is somebody who has a really loose aggressive image, and he lives up to that image quite often, but also when he has a big hand, because of his image, he manages to get pretty good action. We're going to see two examples of that today. We're going to break down whether or not I believe his opponents could have gotten away from the hands. Without further ado, let's get into it.
That's why so I still loved your lay down there. It's just such a needle.
You're so deep too.
The first time you ever made that lay down, you just happened to be wrong.
So it was like raise, call, re-raise button. I re-raise big blind. It comes back to him and he molds all in.
Right.
Oh boy, Negreanu has two queens here, and Dwan has two aces.
That was Borgata. That must have been 10 years ago already now.
And now Esfandiari with two kings. Antonio is 5-betting for 41,100.
So in this pot, we are super deep. Tom has the goods with aces, and this is the dream scenario, aces versus kings versus queens, although the ultimate dream is aces versus kings versus kings. Tom 4-bets to 14,000, and Antonio 5-bets to 41,000. Now, Daniel Negreanu with queens has a big decision here. They've got about 300K in their stacks, and I think putting in all of that money with queens would be relatively suicidal here. I actually think that Daniel should just lay this down. It's a pretty weird spot where actually if he calls, he's kind of getting a price to flop a set. So I understand calling here, and maybe I'm being a bit results oriented, but I know that Tom has aces and he's going to reopen the action and force Daniel to fold. Spoiler alert. I think it's a really close spot. The problem with calling here is that you really look like you have pocket queens, maybe pocket jacks, maybe pocket kings, maybe ace king suited, but it becomes very easy for your opponents to put you on a hand post flop. So some of the time, if Negreanu flops a set of queens, like especially on a board like King, Queen, X, I think somebody can get away from aces when the action is this heavy pre-flop.
Daniel makes the call, and it's back over to Dwan.
Now the game's gonna get fun because JRB has wine.
Uh-oh.
Daniel does decide to call, and Tom has an interesting decision as to, well, first of all, whether or not to raise. I think he should raise. I think slow playing here is kind of a thing, but especially with his image, I think he should raise. And even without his image, I think raising is better. Now, he can go all in for 300,000, or he can raise a smaller amount, something in the neighborhood of 110, 120. I think I would have made it 110,000 or 120,000, but Tom elects to go all in and really leverage his image. He can be confident that Negreanu has a big hand. He's hoping it's pocket kings, and that Negreanu can call, but is more likely a hand like queens or ace king suited that, you know, maybe could hero call, putting Tom on an ace king. Just thinking he's going crazy with ace 5 suited or something. There is a lot of money in the pot already, and Tom is hoping one of his opponents has a big hand and pays him off. I can't fault him for shoving here, but I think a smaller raise makes more sense, specifically with aces and stacks this deep. He can't really value shove a hand worse than aces here. I know this seems foreign to a lot of people because you're used to seeing, you know, if you're watching WSOP on TV and people get in queens versus kings, like it's entirely standard in spots where people have 20 big blinds. But here we're looking at stacks that are closer to like 600 big blinds. And when people have 600 big blinds, you can't be just like shoving in pocket kings or pocket queens, hoping to get called by pocket jacks. It just doesn't happen because that's way too much money to put into the pot. So Tom does decide to shove here, and Antonio has an interesting decision.
On the heels of talking about folding kings pre-flop, could this be the 6th time in history that Antonio makes that decision? He said those days are long gone.
Oh my gosh! I was gonna lay this down anyway, I think. It's just, we were just talking about me getting that hand.
So I still loved your lay down there. It's just such a needle.
You're so deep too.
The first time you ever made that lay down, you just happened to be
It was
wrong.
so obvious. Like raise, call, re-raise button. I re-raise big blind. Comes back to him and he molds all in.
Now, you should almost never fold kings pre-flop. Like really almost never. And if you made a rule that you never fold kings pre-flop to Tom Dwan, you'd probably be making a good rule. This is a spot where I think he could have considered it. I think he did consider it. He does have Daniel to worry about behind him, who occasionally has aces and is trapping Tom, who has that aggressive image. I think that Daniel might play aces this way. Of course, he has to worry about aces from Tom. Tom is not going to have a hand like pocket queens, and I don't think he's going to have a hand like pocket kings. So Antonio is hoping that he has a hand like ace king or some wild bluff. He might be hoping he has kings, but I think Tom would just call here with kings, honestly. Yeah, it's just weird because if we were to plug this into a solver and look in theory, probably kings is a hand that's going to mix some folds and some calls at this stack depth because you can't fold 100% of the time, otherwise you're folding too much depending on your pre-flop 5 betting range. But this is a 6-bet all-in. This is a ton of big blinds, and I think it's a close spot for Antonio. I think I probably would have called, which is what he does, but it's a really close spot. Now Daniel saying he would have folded anyways, whether Antonio did or not, but lays down the queens, and everybody sees that it was queens against kings against aces, and let's watch the board run out.
Yeah, I'm gonna fold.
2 queens, right?
Yeah, they both have ace king.
It's 2 queens.
Two kings.
Oh my gosh!
Ace, kings, queens.
I was gonna fold it
We
anyway.
were just talking about this. That's
Ah.
so sick.
Twice
You
if you
didn't-
want.
I almost
Sure.
folded already.
Are we allowed to run it twice?
Tom Dwan with aces.
Twice.
So these players will run 2 complete boards. One half of the pot will go to the winner on each board. The first reads 10, 7, 9 on the flop. Big turn card for the Kings, an 8, and they'll now chop this
I
first
know, I
half of
see.
the
I
pot.
don't know.
A queen, and
Antonio folded, you
Antonio
were
could
calling
scoop it.
anyway.
Oh, yeah.
I was
2
folding.
queens, of course, in the muck.
Antonio fold?
I'm serious. I was like literally folding.
You're
6
better
is
than
no
I am.
help.
I'm never folding your hand.
I almost folded ace raise. I had
Dwan
6
wins the
stealing.
first half.
Better player than I am.
Here comes the second board.
How much?
Jack 4 deuce.
4, 3.
Antonio needs a king and a king only to chop. Instead, it's a 6.
So Tom picks up both boards, wins a very nice pot here of over 600,000. And let's check out the next hand where he got all in pre.
Big hands are coming out on these straddles. JRB with ace king of clubs.
Pardon my shtick.
Ace jack for Steven. And Dwan just calls with queens on the button.
All right, so this hand is quite different. We start with a $1,600 straddle, so stacks are shallower. And then we start with an open from Rick Solomon, who in the last situations can be playing any 2 cards. So now we've got a 1,600 straddle, an open to 4K from a super wide range. We got a call from Brandon Steven, who is relatively reasonable pre-flop, but he's not going to be slow playing super often there, especially against Rick. And Tom decides to call with queens. I would have 3-bet here, essentially always. And I'm not sure if Tom was thinking about somebody behind him who he felt was very likely to squeeze this spot. Tom often gets like a few levels above, and I think sometimes gets himself in trouble because he's like 6 levels above what his opponent's actually thinking. And this is a spot where he might be thinking, look, a super loose player open, Brennan called, who has a reasonable range, but it's capped. I have a super loose image, so if I call here, they're gonna put me on like 10-7 suited, and somebody's really likely to squeeze. I do think that's a reasonable thought process, but I also think this is a kind of cash game where people are more likely to just be playing their cards. The game lasts for a long time. Not everybody's hyper-focused and attacking every possible edge like Tom tends to. So I think it's a kind of like wasted high-level thought. Although, as we're gonna see, it does work out for him.
And Dwan just calls with queens on the button.
Watch your call.
He's hoping somebody raises.
Yeah, I believe in calling.
Here we go.
This is part of my shtick.
And JRB will accommodate him.
Come on, Gary. Let's sweeten up the pot a little bit. Ooh.
JRB raises to 11,000. Solomon calls.
What are me and Brynn doing? Only one was not in this spot.
Lynne-Ji calls behind with queen 10 suited, very standard, and JRB in the big blind with ace king suited is going to squeeze, which is incredibly standard, the most standard play in the world here, especially when the action's gone like this. Like I said, it is a really good spot to squeeze light, and this is not light, this is ace king suited. Rick Solomon calls with 5-3, as he's known to do. Brandon Steven calls with ace jack suited, very standard, and now Tom springs the trap.
Dwan with the button and queens. Thinking about how much to raise.
54,000. He raises to 54,000.
This hand's going to come down to JRB and Dwan.
There's 42,000 out there now, and he makes it 54,000, which I think would normally be too big for this spot, but I think given the game dynamic, it's relatively reasonable. I do kind of like this play, and he is thinking all of the things that I've been saying, plus maybe a couple more things. He knows that these ranges are capped and weak. JRB is a player who's loose aggressive enough to be squeezing light here. I just like this raise with queens and with some other hands as well.
Don't think Brandon will call.
All in.
All in. I'm all in.
And for some unknown reason that I won't even try to explain or think about, Lynn's gone all in. JRB immediately followed with his all in. And Dwan has a really tough decision.
Tell me why.
Because Jean-Robert has 400,000, and Jean-Robert's not doing this with jacks.
Now, the most interesting part of this hand is that Lynne-Ji behind him decides that Tom is making the move that I was just talking about. And with queen 10 suited, realizes she can't call, but decides to shove it in, thinking that if JRB has ace king or some kind of bluff, like maybe he's folding. If he has ace queen, he's probably folding. And if Tom's bluffing, yes, he's getting over 2-1, but he's gonna have to fold his air because it really looks like Lynn has something pretty big. In a way, it's wild and nonsensical because she should have squeezed the first time if she had a really big hand. But we saw that Tom, who also should have, didn't. And I'm sure she's capable of not having raised a hand like queens, kings, or aces in a spot like this as well. So she shoves 163K in, and JRB has a really strange spot. Tom is representing strength, Lynn is representing strength. He has ace-king suited. I actually think ace-king offsuit should be a fold here, but with ace-king suited, given the game dynamics and given these players, and as we can see, Lynn actually has queen 10, which means she's probably capable of shoving, well, she's definitely capable of shoving wide. She's probably capable of shoving more hands than we might have assumed without seeing this hand, and maybe JRB knows that. So I like his shove with ace-king suited. I think with ace-king offsuit, he might need to fold, but he might know this game dynamic and these players better than I do, and might just be putting it in with ace-king offsuit as well.
148, 158.
This is a really tough call for
160,
Dwan. I wouldn't be
184.
surprised if he throws the queens away here. And then Jean-Robert will be in great shape. I'm a little surprised.
Yeah.
Queens, wow.
You're hoping to get queen.
You have ace
No, I was
jack?
really yeah.
Oh, that's good for me.
It's kings, right?
No, I got ace king.
Oh, that is
Let's
jack.
just get some hearts.
It folds back around to Tom, and he has a tough spot now too. He's represented a hand like queens, honestly. Lynn has shoved anyway, so she's saying she's got like ace king or maybe tens, jacks, queens, kings, aces. So he's probably flipping against her range, but then JRB shoves over that, so he can't be shoving light. He's got ace king, tens, jacks, queens, kings, aces, probably not tens. I think he folds tens, maybe he folds jacks. So like ace king or queens plus. And it's a really tough spot for queens. He's getting decent pot odds. There was a lot of dead money out there. I actually think this is a super tough spot. I don't know what I think the right play is. And I mean, as we can see, Tom took some time trying to figure this out because it's a very strange spot given the game dynamics. But it's a tough spot with queens, specifically kings. I think you have a snap call. Tens, I think you have a snap fold. But with queens and maybe with jacks, jacks seem like a fold to me. I don't know. With queens, it seems really close. In the end, he decides to call. He's in pretty good shape. Lynn, of course, in very bad shape here, three-way, but Bellande has decent equity as well. They run it 3 times. Let's watch the runouts.
It's tough because I look really strong.
Hang on one sec.
We're doing twice per
So
board.
we're looking at the biggest pot in high stakes poker this season.
Well, that
If
was a massive putt.
Dwan or Bellande scoop, they're looking at close to $1 million.
Three if you want.
You want to go 3?
Can we do 3?
If she's all right with
think
3,
it's
I'm all right
fun.
with
3 times.
Okay, 3 times.
3 times, 3 all in. That's
Well, Bear just feels like he's gonna spike this.
No, dude, I
I
just
just
like,
like
you know.
1.
So you guys solid with your decision?
Actually,
Three, so we're going 3 boards, just so we're all agreed. All 3 of us are going 3 boards.
All right.
All right, let's see how many aces and kings are left in the deck.
Oh, you do?
Jack of diamonds. Jack of diamonds gets me in trouble. Uh-oh,
You
somebody
got queen
live.
10.
Wow.
Interesting cards there.
Kick-ass
I don't think
flop.
I've ever bagged at the poker table before.
That's a
but
kick-ass
live.
That was a good time
flop.
to
Please, no king.
I think it's 8.
How about a nice little ace? Do not get rid of my kings, please.
Another heart. Another heart. I said I should have.
Wow.
Please.
This is your hand right here. If you don't get it here, it's gonna be trouble.
I don't think I've ever prayed this hard for anything. Oh.
Well, maybe. Too many outs in the turn.
I'm liking 3
Got the
times
too
right
many
now.
outs
Tell you
syndrome
that
in the
much.
turn. It's not what you wanted.
Absolutely not.
A lot of cards dead.
Burned a lot of cards. 2 hearts, 2 nines. Ugh.
Jacks are helpful to have when I have queen 10.
Yeah.
Up against queens.
Damn it. That's tough. That's a tough
Jesus,
board
how
for
the
you.
do you guys both actually have hands?
Wow, there's still another queen in the deck. Oh my God. Wow.
Please check it out.
Is it too ambitious to root for 2 hearts?
Well, you just burned 2, so I'll do it now.
I don't think I've ever.
I'm not a
times in my life.
I'm not a scientist, but those are 2 good boards for you.
Don't give me the jinx.
Sounds alive.
Is there a 10 in there somewhere?
How many clubs are on the board?
There's still 2 10s left, isn't
Where's
there?
the clubs, John?
I don't have no idea. I don't have any idea.
It's gonna take the rest of the night for them to figure this out.
2
anyway.
10s left, I know that.
Fast. 3 people.
Well, it looks like 2/3 of the pot is going to Dwan so far.
Wow. How you liking your hand right now?
Dirty. Wow.
I'm gonna get to work on the wine.
Yeah, good idea. Wow. Too.
Fives.
All I know is I'm glad I read it 3 times because I got a little bit of a chance here. I didn't have any of a chance first 2 boards.
Oh, great.
Wow.
Now, Bellande needs an ace or a king. What else could he win with, AJ?
One with a 5.
Well, why can't he win with a 5?
Oh, yeah,
Why can't he win?
Yeah.
Well, it's not there.
Who has a full
No,
house?
because Rick had the other
Rick
5.
Oh, he already has a full house.
Okay.
Oh, I see.
So he needs an ace or a king. Lynn is out of it. She can make a flush, but it's no good.
Nobody has no ace or king. You have a decent
I have an
chance.
ace, so
There you go.
yeah, there's 1 out there, so we gotta get some kings.
Boom. Right.
Nope.
That was.
How in the hell do you scoop that?
That was a good
pretty
call,
fucking
Tom.
sick.
That's it for me, boys.
Somehow Tom manages to win all of both of these pots. Because of his image, managed to get a lot of action pre-flop. I mean, we could see in the second hand, it almost made him fold. But he did get that loose play from Lynn and a kind of loose play from JRB with ace-king, although I think it makes sense because of the image he's built up over the years. So hope you enjoyed watching this. Less strategically advanced than I'd like my videos to be, but this was fun for me to watch and hopefully fun for you to watch as well. I will see you in the next one. Until then, take care and good luck.